The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com
We were on the break!
with Ambar Garcia, Brian Broaddus, Patrick Walker, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Thursday, November 9th, 2023, season 19, episode number 67. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break. We're live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. And today we're going to get you guys ready, continue to get you guys ready for Cowboys versus Giants. We'll talk about the Giants defense versus the Cowboys offense. We got some injury updates that we will get to here in just a moment. Some interesting comments by Mike McCarthy regarding Tyron Smith. We'll talk about that as well. Real quick, if you guys will indulge me, here at the beginning of the show, I just want to take a chance to wish a very happy birthday to a very special woman in my life, my mommy.
Hey,
my mom. Aww. Happy birthday to my mom.
Happy birthday to the queen.
I know she's listening because, as your mom does, Brian, I know if there's only one that's going to listen to the show, my mom is listening every single day. And as she told me this morning, she was like, I really don't care what anybody else has to say. I'm just listening to see my baby. So, hey, Mom, happy birthday.
Happy birthday to the queen.
Yeah.
100%.
All right, so here we go. Let's get in. Let's talk about the injury report. There were 4 guys on the injury report.
Real quick, since she's listening.
Yeah.
She's done a good job on her son, teaching him how to be a gentleman. I will say this, one thing that Derek does every single time to any female, he will open the door and let you walk and go in first. So, total gentleman. So, good job.
Even in the face of daily adversity that he gets from his left side, he remains staunch on being a gentleman.
Because mom taught me well. Mom taught me well. No doubt about it. All right, so let's jump in. Let's talk about these injuries. There were 4 guys on the injury report. You had Marquise Bell with a calf injury, also Diggy Zewell with a hamstring injury. Both of them were limited. Tyron Smith did not practice with an illness. Kevontae Turpin did not practice with that shoulder, which I don't know what.
It's weird.
It was all weird because it looked like shoulder and then they announced ribs.
And now it's shoulder.
And now it's shoulder. So I don't know what it is, but he's got something going on.
Yeah.
Let's talk about those injuries and kind of what we're expecting as the week progresses.
So right now, in the conversations I've had, Marquise Bell with his calf and also Diggy Zewell hamstring. Not a lot of concern there from the Cowboys. Yesterday was a walkthrough for Dallas. Testament to what Mike McCarthy said earlier this week is that this Wednesday was set to be lighter for them. So while the Giants had a full practice, Cowboys kind of scaled back based on their GPS numbers. But as we have this conversation, there's no concern about Bell nor Osa going into the game against the Giants. Today is going to be full injury report for Thursday. We'll see if anything changes over the course of today, but not a lot of concern there. Tyler Biadasz, he was listed as full with the ankle. He's fine. Jaron Kearse, toe, he was full. Tyron Smith, Kevontae Turpin, let's go to Tyron last. Kevontae Turpin, that's going to be interesting to watch because he did return from that injury in Philadelphia, scored his second touchdown for the Cowboys, but then you could see that it wasn't there for him after that. So we'll see if he has availability for this weekend. Today will be key for him as well as tomorrow. If he can't go, obviously the returner as a backup is going to be Rico. Maybe Deuce Vaughn gets activated this week if Kevontae can't go as well.
Will Rico do punts as well? I know he's done kicks. Does he do punts as well?
I haven't seen him ever return a punt.
Yeah, me either.
No, not a punt. No. Which would mean, here you go, Deuce. If
probably
Rico,
Deuce,
not Rico, if Kevontae can't go, Deuce, you're up. Tyron Smith, obviously, like you said, listed with an illness, did not participate in the walkthrough. No physical issue as far as the neck stinger. So the fact that that's not listed, we're trending in a good spot there. Mike McCarthy was asked this week about the possibility of the Cowboys keeping the formula they had last week going into Philadelphia going forward, in which Tyron did not participate in the contact practices. It was walkthrough and mock game only, and then he had an exceptional game. Mike McCarthy said that is on the table, possibly not just for this week, but possibly going forward for the rest of the season. I'm completely on board with that. He is no longer a daily driver. I think it's fair that everyone in the organization and Tyron understand that. So if you're only going to pull him out on Sundays or Mondays or Thursdays, whenever the game is, there we go. Let's do it. Because if he can continue to play at the level he played in Philly without practicing, there's your magic sauce right there.
Amber and Brian, you disagree, agree?
I just wish they'd all practice myself. I hate the veteran day. I get what Mike's trying to do. I think some of the issues you have on major days you practice, he doesn't practice them anyway. You know, he does a lot of walkthroughs and stuff. I applaud him for keeping his team healthy, but they make a lot of mistakes during games. And I think when you practice with the intent of not making mistakes and being ready for the game. I think there's an element of attention to detail that you lose when you don't practice. So, you know, if Tyron's going to play the way he did, great. You know, absolutely. The availability of Tyron Smith with us it's really 50-50 anyway. So whether he practices or not, we've seen him not practice before and he's played. He just played a great game last week. It's first time in a long time he played a great game. But there's a side of me that just does not dig the aspect of not practicing. I just feel like that you lose something there. And the guys that don't practice are the ones that play major roles weekly in the games. I'm not a fan of not practicing. And if it's walkthroughs, whatever, I don't care. But you only have so many of these things, so many opportunities. This classroom stuff, yeah, you can learn. You know, we've got technology now. You could take your pads home and watch tape and prepare that way and be mentally ready. But there's something to actually going out there and working on run blocking. There's something to actually go out there and work on red zone offense, tight red zone offense, pick routes, rub routes, you know, physically going out and doing that. There's something to that. I think this team lacks that right now. I think some of the mistakes you see them make is because they don't practice nearly enough.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I would rather see him practice. And who's not to say he's not going to pull a muscle in the second snap of the game. You know, it's that can also happen with you not practicing, like practicing that muscle. But with him, we've seen it. Injuries happen whenever. So that's a tough one. But maybe why can't they come up with something where it's not just like either he practices or not, but it's like a limited type of amount of snaps and practice. Like he's still getting some work in, but not for the full practice period.
I think when you're talking about Tyron, and I don't disagree, I've played sports, team sports. I've coached some sports, and I agree with Brian in that when you're not on the practice field, you're missing something. Yeah. That's just this bottom line. I think from the Cowboys' perspective, you have to weigh that up against who you're talking about. If we're talking about, like, for example, a veteran rest day for like a J-Ron Kearse, I don't agree with that. I think a guy like J-Ron Kearse should be on the field. But when it's Tyron Smith, and you see his durability issues over the past several years, and you say to yourself, okay, what's more important, him, Tyron, only Tyron? Is it more important to make sure that Tyron is getting the practice reps, or is it more important that he is available for the games? The next stinger was suffered in practice. You lost him for the subsequent game, and then you struggled on the offensive line. So I think it's a conversation exclusive to Tyron Smith, and if we're keeping it exclusive to Tyron Smith, I'm fine with that, because at his stage in his career, it's not dissimilar from Zach Martin. Zach Martin doesn't technically need to practice to go out there and ball on a weekly basis. Tyron is in that same air. Difference being Zach is more durable, so we're not having this practice conversation about Zach.
Yeah, but they don't run the ball particularly well, and they've struggled on the right side running the ball, and him and Steele for some reason have regressed from what they've done. Is it practice? Is it coaching? There's something that they're missing right now.
Yeah, on the right side.
Yeah, and I totally, Zach Martin, Zach Martin is a great player. But Zach Martin, they give him a veteran day. Well,
we noticed when he was out from training camp, remember that?
Yes.
That he was out, and then start of the season, there were times where, it's been really all year so far where the O-line, have struggled just being really good. But even with Zach, I forgot what game it was specifically, that even a guy like him was not having a good day, and that was at the beginning of the year, and we talked about it on the show, and I remember maybe it was like the reasoning behind it was a reflection of him being absent throughout training camp and missing those type of practices.
The thing with Tyron Smith is that he could get hurt walking up the stairs to get on the airplane. That's where you're at right now with Tyron Smith, and I understand them trying to protect him and all that. But when you have major breakdowns, and you're not particularly good in areas, I don't think just walking through is the right thing to do. And he prides himself on practice. Mike always talks about how much he likes to practice and all that, but he doesn't practice his guys in that way. This team has been fresh in the playoffs and all that, and it hasn't carried through to the whole playoffs. And
I think the other thing you got to consider there when you're talking about offensive linemen is continuity. We talk about it all the time. They have to work as a unit. And what have we talked about also when it comes to some of the challenges they've had? Have had issues sometimes when it comes to handling twists and being able to kind of pass guys off. And I've seen in the running game, sometimes the issue is that guys aren't getting off to that second level. And that's all about timing. That's all about working with the guy beside you and knowing when you're letting go and releasing that player and passing that player off so you can get to the next guy. If you're not practicing, that timing won't get there because as we know, they haven't played enough games in a row, as we've been talking about. They haven't done that enough to get to a point where you feel like that continuity is right there. So I do wonder if you're not getting the practice time, where do you get that continuity? Where do you build that continuity?
Because you're playing the risk-reward equation because you're 100% right. The more practice reps you get, the more continuity you build. But if he suffers a neck stinger in practice and he's not on the field the next game, then guess what? You're not getting the continuity in the game. So you're losing it somewhere. And really, again, that's why I said this conversation for me is exclusive to Tyron in that, how do you manage that? Like, is he more valuable in getting these practice reps, which are valuable, but is it more valuable to get him those and risk him not playing the next 1 or 2 games? Or if you say, hey, he's at a stage in his career where he's good enough to go through walkthroughs and mock games and still also mentally build chemistry with Tyler, and then it shows on the left side as it did in Philadelphia. It's the right side that needs to get it figured out.
They were ready last week. They felt like that something might happen to him in play 3. Play 4. I mean, Udoka was ready to go. If you want to watch the movie Top Gun and have somebody on Cat 2, ready,
No, you're talking Nick Eatman.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're all fighting the mission, but we got somebody over here on Cat 2 ready to launch if somebody goes down. Yeah. That's what it is. Yeah. You know what I mean? Do we want to launch on Cat 2? No, we're good. We're battling here. That kind of thing. But that's Tyron Smith now. And as great as he is, there's no other player I can ever remember where you need him so badly, but you're just scared every time that he ever takes a snap.
Sounds like Sean Lee. That's where they were with Sean Lee too toward the end of his career.
But I just, like I said, I think practice is important, and I know Allen Iverson disagrees with me. But
the only thing
I think it is important for football. I think it's important.
Yeah. Well, I'm like, okay, how can I compare this in my own life or relate to? Obviously, I'm no athlete. I'm not an athlete whatsoever. No, sorry to disappoint. Sorry, that's just working out. I'm no athlete, but. If I don't pick up a paintbrush all week, and then I do over the weekend, it might take me. It doesn't mean my skill is disappear or gone. It's still there, but it might take me like an hour or so for me to kind of, all right, let me get back in the groove, in the pace. And you can't. It's just there's no other way to replicate that moment unless you practice on the field out there. And even then practice is not replicating what you're going to face during the game.
I agree. I think if he has an average or even slightly above or below average game against the Eagles, then it's not on the table as far as the conversation for Mike McCarthy and the coaching staff. I think the fact that he was able to go out there, not show any rust, not need any ramp-up time as far as the first couple of series or whatever, gives them confidence that, hey, if you did it once, you can do it again. So to your point, you're 100% correct. But that's what I mean when I say it's exclusive, the conversation is to Tyron because of where he is in his career, how elite he can still be when he's on the field physically and mentally. So he's shown you that he doesn't need the ramp-up, and that's why I think it's on the table for him.
All right, here's what I'm going to do. I want to move on to another topic real quickly I want to hit before we go to break. We talked a little bit earlier in the week about Martavis Bryant. Cowboys actually finalized it. They signed him to the practice squad. He said something, I think it was yesterday, that did raise my eyebrow for a second. He said he's been running 20 to 22 to 23 miles per hour in some of his training. So it brought up an interesting thought in my mind, like how fast is that relative to other NFL players? So I went on our Next Gen Stat website, and max speed for a wide receiver in the 2023 season, 22.44 miles per hour. If he's telling the truth, He's running as fast as the fastest wide receiver.
We need the
Hill?
receipts,
They
Martavis.
didn't say a name. They just said the fastest,
Okay.
fastest wide receiver time this year at sustained speed of 0.5 seconds. Sustained for 0.5 seconds was 22.44 miles per hour.
Let's get the chronometer and go
Yeah.
out there.
So my question though is
We need
like,
the receipts.
if that is true, does it change your thoughts on maybe what your expectations might be for this guy? Because as we talked about earlier in the week, my expectations was literally,
How old's this guy, 31?
can he help you out maybe,
31.
as a scout type guy?
Yeah.
But if he's running as fast as the fastest guy in the league at the wide receiver position, you might be able to use that.
I think when you talk to anybody in the organization, they will tell you they're kicking the tires on this one.
Yeah.
They're just looking. They're looking to see if they can find something that can help them, maybe 2-3 weeks from now. That's where they're at. Britt Brown's going to get this guy in the best shape he can. The guy's going to practice. Hopefully he's going to have some opportunities to learn what's going on in the playbook and get some reps out there. And then maybe that for that stretch run, when you get to December, you might see him on a call-up, and because if they feel good enough that way, I don't think this was one to go out and replace somebody right now. I think this was let's go 2 or 3 weeks, see where we're at, and then if it's good to go, we'll go with it. If it's not, then there's really no harm there.
Yeah.
Well, first, we want to believe you, Martavis, but we need those receipts, my friend.
Did somebody time you?
Yeah, we need that receipt. But I would say if we're talking strictly on if the speed, if that's accurate, if that changes my thought process, the answer is no. If we're talking strictly speed, because you have speed, you got Cooks, you got Turpin, you got speed. You wouldn't necessarily have speed with that size.
I was about to say the size is the part that changes
you
the
wouldn't have
dynamic.
speed with that size. But I'm right there with Brian. It's still a look-see situation for the Cowboys. His signing doesn't, as we have this conversation, displace anyone. It doesn't displace Gallup, Tolbert, Turpin. It certainly doesn't displace Cooks. And then, CeeDee Lamb's going to be CeeDee Lamb. So I think it's just, it's kicking the tires, like Brian said. And if it works out for you, great. Then you figure out what that success looks like schematically for you. And if it doesn't, then what it really costs you, pennies on the dollar, if that. So
It could be a bigger red zone target, though.
Yeah.
There
are ways you can figure out how to use him, I would think. And again, the success, as we talked about, how do you define success? Maybe it is, can he make a play for you? Like literally, you get into one of these tight games, can he be the guy? Can he be the difference in that Philadelphia game when you're figuring out how you can try to get in the end zone there at the end of the game? Maybe he's that difference maker for you. And if you can find a guy that can play that kind of role, it's a good thing for you in December and into the playoffs.
How successful would you say the Cowboys have been at utilizing new acquisition, new talent, when plugging them in the offense? Because it makes me wonder, people that come into mind, guys
T.Y.
like
Hilton.
these,
T.Y. Hilton, I remember the
got
first game
something out
was
of
a
him,
game against Philadelphia. He had like a 30. It was third and 30. And he,
T.Y.
Yeah, and he I think there was a time where T.Y. Hilton, as a plug-in player, like his first 4 receptions were all first downs.
Yeah.
So that was kind of one of those, wow, okay, here's a guy off the couch, all of a sudden gets plugged in the game, and now he's helping you win games.
Yeah, it's possible. It's a little bit more of a gap between T.Y. and Martavis simply because of how more recently T.Y. was in the league.
Right.
And this is a guy, T.Y., at height of his career, he was in a Hall of Fame discussion, right? So different caliber there, but, it's still possible. I mean, different position, but, Jason Peters came in and contributed.
Jason Peters, another one.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
Yeah, so it's definitely possible if that's what you're asking. It's just a matter of waiting and seeing what happens with it, basically. He's got the skill set.
I'm just saying, I was thinking more those when it comes to offensive weapons, where sometimes they struggle to find the right spot or the right way. Like, look at Cavante Turpin. I mean, completely different story here, but how long it took them to get to the point that they're at now in finding ways to use him. So it's
Same
more
thing
of
with
like
Pollard.
Guys like that. Like, sometimes they struggle, and it takes them a while to really, when it starts clicking and they start taking advantage of those guys. So
yeah, I was trying to look it up. I didn't realize until I was kind of reading around about him yesterday that he actually played this last year in the XFL.
Yeah.
And here it is. Looking at some of his receiving numbers, he had 154 yards receiving on 14 receptions. So not anything that you're like, oh my gosh, that was like a wonderful season. But he has played football, because I was thinking, is he coming right off the couch? He actually has been playing football, so that does help a little bit. And then you see what you can do here. Obviously, you got the trainers here that can get him into football shape, and then you see if you can take advantage of some of that size and speed to give you a little something.
And he's played on a big NFL stage as far as I almost said programs. I got college football on the brain. As far as organizations are concerned, Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, there's a lot of eyes and bright lights in Pittsburgh as well. And under Mike Tomlin, there's a lot of expectation there, and he produced up there. So it's not like he's unfamiliar with stepping into big shoes and trying to get some stuff done.
All right, let's take our first break. When we come back, we're going to jump into the Giants' defense versus the Cowboys' offense. We'll be back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Cowboys fans, after that move, we've just coined the term Rowdy Replay. Let's roll back the tape.
Okay, there's our mascot Rowdy cheering on the boys. And now he's on his phone, on his Bank of America mobile banking app?
Staying on top of his finances with his virtual financial assistant, Erica.
Bank of America's digital tools are so impressive. Cowboys fans just can't stop banking. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/can't stop banking.
Erica is only available in the English language. You must download the latest version of the mobile banking app, only available on select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. Member FDIC.
Welcome back into Dear Doctor, the show where I answer life's questions with an ice-cold can of Dr. Pepper. Sheila, let's hear from our next caller, would you?
Dear Doctor, my friend supported me during a tough time, but what's the right gift that says, thanks for being a shoulder to cry on?
Okay, this one's easy. I say give her a delicious Dr. Pepper. Nothing says, thanks, girl, better than a one-of-a-kind soda. Yes, any Dr. Pepper flavor will do. Now, just a reminder that I don't need to be a real doctor to know that Dr. Pepper is the one you deserve.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit unitedagandturf.com to find a location near you.
Back to the break.
Head to AT&T Stadium on Saturday, November 11th to experience Rally Day presented by SeatGeek. Celebrate Veterans Day with special presentations from the Color Guard and Junior ROTC Drill Team, plus 21-gun salute. Take a tour of AT&T Stadium, get autographs from Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders and alumni. Play games, head outside to the Miller Lighthouse, and even play on the field. Visit AT&TStadium.com/rallydays for tickets and more information.
Welcome back. Second segment of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Start. Segment brought to you by blockchain.com. All right, here we go. Let's talk about the New York Giants defense. Since the last time the Cowboys played them, they did trade away what I think is probably safe to say their best defensive player, or at least among their very best defensive players, in Leonard Williams. Brian, how much did that change their defense when they traded him away?
It hurt them in a way, because they're trying to kind of figure out what's going on inside at tackle, but you're still going to have to deal with Dexter Lawrence. He, in my opinion, with Thibodeau is listed as an outside linebacker, he really plays like an edge. Jihad Ward is the other one. So, if that right there, Lawrence, Thibodeau, Ward, that's kind of their pass rushing group. Mm-hmm. And as we all know, this is a very blitz-heavy team. I think 46% of the time they're going to blitz you here. And the down they do it on, which I thought was interesting, I was like, where do they do this? It's second down. Like 58% of the time they're going to blitz, and you kind of watch the tape, and you're like, okay, I see what they're doing here. But, yeah, I think it really does start with I could very well see them in this game, guys, taking Dexter Lawrence and putting him right over the nose of Tyler Biadasz and say block. because he's done that a couple of the games I was watching, the last two. The Jets, he caused a lot of problems inside. He caused problems against the Raiders as well, just pushing the center back into the quarterback. So that's where you're going to have to deal. Thibodeau is a guy Thibodeau had one of his best games, by the way, against the Jets. When you watched tape, he had 3 sacks in that game, and he looked like the player that we all kind of thought he was going to be. So that's kind of what they got going up front with their group.
You mentioned Thibodeau. Where is he going to typically? Where are you going to typically see him line up, and who's going to be the Cowboy player that's primarily going to see him most of the day?
Well, if I'm the Giants, I'm going to put him over on the right side because he plays both sides.
Yeah,
he can play. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put him on the Giants' left, your right, and I'm going to test Terrence Steele in this one to see if he can hold up. These teams, they look for weaknesses along the line. And I think a couple of spots that the Cowboys have had some concerns have been at their center spot and then at right tackle a little bit. So they'll take their 2 best players and put them in those spots, I believe.
Thinking about the skill set of Thibodeau and the skill set of Steele and where Steele is okay and where he's struggling this year, how does that match up?
Yeah, that's the thing with Thibodeau is he for a big guy, he doesn't play with a whole lot of power. He's more of a try to kind of beat you with, try to get to your shoulder, try to beat you with some quickness, try and dip underneath you. The hand placement, all that stuff could be a lot better for him. He relies more on he's going to get the edge and he's going to be able to get underneath you to get to the quarterback. So. I think where Steele needs to be a little careful is, as much as he's had some of the issues on the edge and gets maybe overthinks it a little bit and thinks I have to be outside, and then Thibodeau comes back inside. That's where I would worry a little bit right now, being really heavy, trying to stay outside on the outside foot on his right foot, and then Thibodeau taking him back inside because he's capable of doing both rushes that way.
Who's the best at stopping the run?
It's going to be Lawrence. It's going to be this when you watch them play, Lawrence as the defensive tackle makes a lot of plays inside because if you run the ball at him, he's going to just disengage the blocks and he also can work a couple of gaps down is what he can do. They've got Bobby Okereke, the linebacker's a good player for them. He's a kind of a downhill player. So the defensive tackle and then the middle linebacker are the 2 of the best players when it comes to defending the run. You thinking about running the ball this week or try to run the ball?
Well, actually, I would like to see something, a little bit of starting to establish that wherever you can, at whatever point. Yeah. I think just to start building up a little bit more confidence in that area of the game.
So let me throw this at you. I was looking at some of the numbers around the Giants' rush defense. Yeah. They are 25th in rush defense in the league. Not only that, they're 28th in yards per carry. They're allowing 4.6 yards per carry. When you think about that, and considering the fact that they've allowed 125-plus rushing yards in 7 of their 9 games, gave up a whopping 222 at Miami, it looks like this could be a game where you could get right with your running game.
So you're saying there's a chance?
There's a chance.
There's a chance. But to me, it's going to have to be, can you block that defensive tackle? Lawrence, I think, evidently when you look at the games and stuff like that, the thing about it is, to me, and when I watch the Giants play, the thing I worry the most about them is, like, if you just commit to saying, okay, we're going to throw the ball here today, we're going to try and throw the ball, the pressure, their blitz pressure, and maybe this is a time where Dallas could say, well, let's try and load up and run the ball here and let's try and be successful at it. But I think the Giants kind of also know that too, in my opinion. I think they're sitting there thinking, well, Dallas wants to try and get right running the ball here, and so how do you play? I mean, the reason I think the Giants give up plays, their linebackers are like really aggressive with him, and McFadden's another one. They overrun. They're really they really bite heavy when you give them that run action. They're coming forward because they're committed to trying to play the run because of what Derek was talking about. Xavier McKinney, the safety, these guys are all trying to fly down inside there to stop the run because they have had some problems with it. But Dallas has got to prove to me that they can run the ball. If you go into a game and you're playing against the best run defense in the league, and you don't have success running the ball, now you've really got some problems in this one. But it's going to be have to block. I think it's going to be about having to block making sure that you take care of Lawrence and then take care of their linebackers.
I think, and like you said, they rank pretty poorly as far as run defense is concerned. And kind of going to Brian's point, if they feel like that's where you're going to try to attack them first, attack them in the air first, and then use that to kind of set up your run, and then there you go. There's your rushing attack right there, because they're not great at pass defense, which Brian will get to in a moment. So, however you want to attack it, this is a game where you can get the run game going. I just wouldn't go at it primarily. And you're doing so well as far as explosiveness with CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson. Like, don't halt that. Keep that going. Use that to apply pressure and keep that momentum moving forward, and then they'll start backing off. And then here comes that 25th, 26th ranked run defense, unable to stop Tony Pollard, Rico Dowdle.
But, okay, this might be a dumb question, but it's okay. If they're bad at stopping the run anyways, regardless, why does it matter whether they know or see that you're...
They'll scheme for it. They'll throw extra bodies at it.
Yeah,
they'll put more bodies in the box and things like that. So
you haven't proven...
But they're still bad at it.
You've proven you can't run the ball.
True, for sure.
You've had
yes.
I shouldn't say proven. You struggle running the ball.
You haven't shown you can run
You
it
haven't shown. So if their thought has to be, when you look at Wink Martindale, their defensive coordinator, if I'm him, I'm like, okay, if I would worry more about Dak and CD and Ferguson than I would anybody else. Those are the guys I need because you haven't proven to me that you can run the ball against anybody, good or bad. That means they just haven't had success doing it. And Philadelphia, we knew Philadelphia, but there's teams that we might believe. We saw last week with our own eyes. Philadelphia plays poor pass defense. That might be the way to beat Philadelphia. Yeah. Now, don't run the ball.
There's no might about it.
And it might be people don't want to run the ball because it's like we'll throw the ball on these guys because if we can block their fronts, then we can throw the ball in the secondary.
But honestly, I think if I were the Giants, I'd take the opposite approach, Brian, and what you're saying. I would actually say I would come into this game saying I got to cool Dak Prescott off.
That's what I'm saying. I'm playing pass defense.
Yeah, I'm
first.
If I'm the Giants, I'm keeping 7 back, and I might blitz every once in a while. But also the other part to that too is when you got a team like theirs where offensively they're going to struggle. You want to keep the game close. So the last thing you do is give up big plays. So I'd be like, I'm not giving up any big plays. I'm keeping everything underneath me. I'm going to force Dallas to drive methodically down the field and not make a mistake. That's how I think I would approach it if I were the Giants.
Do their defense allow a lot of big plays?
Alive.
Maybe they will, but that's how I think they have to approach it. Right?
Fair.
I think that's the only shot they got in approaching this game.
And I would love for them to approach it that way because they're going to get absolutely eaten alive. And that's why I said keep the momentum going, keep the electricity going in this passing attack. Because if they, for them, I could see how that makes sense, but that's a bad play for them. Like that's a bad play.
They don't really have
they're struggling because their offense is so bad. Their offense is so bad,
and it affects everything else.
It affects how they have to play defense, and they have to. Now they're banged up in the secondary right now. We'll see. Adoree Jackson suffered. He hurt his neck in the Buffalo game,
concussion,
and then he got a
concussion. Is he out or is he?
I talked to my guys at the Giants this morning. He was. There's a chance that he's going to be available. So that would be him and Banks would likely be the corner. Nick McLeod played last week, and he wasn't terrible in the game. Where they're bad is Cordell Flock is the nickel, and he's been struggling. He plays really loose, and that's a problem for them. Sometimes he's up on it, sometimes he's back. He gives up plays, he gives up routes. He doesn't tackle particularly well. So I don't know if they want to sit there and blitz Dak in this game.
No.
I would make, like you guys were talking about, to me, make Dallas have to drive the ball. Because when Dallas drives the ball, are they going to make a mistake?
Right.
Legal motion? Are they going to give up a sack? Are they going to, what's going to happen in this game? So, the plan for me I would worry, but like I said, I would worry about Dak a lot in this game. If I was the Giants, I would do everything in my power to make sure you take care of him first.
Right.
and then work from the others.
If you can do it.
They don't have the horses to do it.
Yeah.
And here's something that I found that's actually promising to in the regards of a concern that you and we had coming out of the San Francisco game. Dak Prescott and these receivers excel at exposing zone coverage.
Yeah.
But when the defense switches to man, the Cowboys were struggling. Dak was struggling with that. Well, they went into a Philadelphia game where Philly was averaging roughly 7+% zone defense, but they dropped that, and it was almost a 50-50 split.
Right.
Okay, Dak Prescott versus man coverage in Philly, 13 for 21, 188, 2 touchdowns.
Right.
Plus 10.8, so almost 11% completion percentage above expectation. So Dak Prescott and CeeDee, this is why I say keep that momentum going with CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson, because now it's starting to come together where Dak Prescott can pick apart man coverage as well as he can pick apart zone. The Giants don't have a recourse for this. They don't.
The more the season is going on, the more it's becoming apparent, at least to me, that I think the issues that the offense was dealing with early in the season were growing pains. They were figuring out this offense. They were figuring out how to get Dak acclimated in this offense. And I think now they're starting to figure it out, and that's why I think they've been on this roll these last couple weeks. All right, let's go ahead and take our final break. We'll come back. I got some questions for you guys about the Cowboys offense. We'll do that in just a second. DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Don't put off getting your oil change, Dallas. Take 5 Oil Change, a proud partner of the Cowboys, is faster than you think. There's no appointment needed and no waiting room. Yep, you heard that correctly. Take 5 is so fast, you don't even have to get out of your car. You can take advantage of Take 5's fast, friendly, and simple service at any of their locations across the Dallas area. And remember, at Take 5, you stay in your car because they're faster than you think. Take 5, the official oil change of the Dallas Cowboys.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
Back to the break.
All right, it's time for the NFL Fan of the Year. I think our buddy here is Sean Polite.
Yeah.
Is your 2023 Cowboys Fan of the Year, and now he needs your help. Vote for Sean to be given the ultimate title of NFL Fan of the Year presented by Captain Morgan by casting your vote at NFL.com/Fan of the Year.
Welcome back. It is the final segment of the break. We are live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. Let's turn our attention to the Cowboys offense. Here's a question I have for you guys. Is there a noticeable difference for you between Tony Pollard of previous seasons and of 2023? Because I know there's been a lot with regard to the offensive line and their woes, but how much of that is about Tony Pollard? How different is he than he's been in past years?
He's different to me, and I'm not surprised because...
But be clear, in what ways?
I think as the season wears along, he's starting to find out what it means to be RB1 and have to do the dirty work and the heavy lifting that, say, Ezekiel Elliott had become accustomed to doing. And that's going to take some of his explosiveness, some of his home run ability, particularly as you get midway and in the back end of the season. So because there's some plays on the film where I'm like, okay, the Tony Pollard previously to 2023 would have hit that lane and gotten 10, 15 yards. Maybe that's a home run ball. But Tony Pollard in 2023, he either doesn't see that lane or he hits that lane, but not with the same explosiveness. So it just leads me to wonder how much of carrying the RB1 load and doing that dirty work and the heavy lifting has siphoned some of his explosiveness, which also is why RB2, which was Tony Pollard, now it's Rico Dowdle, has those fresh legs and he's showing that explosiveness. That's just the dynamic
Go
of
figure.
it. Go figure. And we talked, you say that facetiously because we talked about this in training camp. What does Tony Pollard RB1 look like? And we said, I know Amber and I are on the same page with this. We don't think that it looks anything like Tony Pollard RB2 because you have to take on more duties and you're taking more hits because you're getting more reps. And as the weeks roll along, you start to find out this is why Ezekiel Elliott in December would deal with a PCL issue. This is why Ezekiel Elliott would deal with this ailment and that ailment. And it's just not there like it was. Not to say he can't still hit the home run. I believe he can. But this is a different version of Tony Pollard. And people just need to get used to it. You're not going to see the one you saw in 2022 and 2021. That now is Rico Dowdle because that's how it plays out in the RB1, RB2 dynamic.
Yep. Where are all the Zeke haters now? It's just one of those things. You presented it perfectly because now I do see some people online wanting to see more Rico. And it's like, oh, okay, we've heard this story.
The second running back is always more popular
than the first. We have heard this story before.
Right? Yeah.
Now, to be fair, the O-line has not been what you like it to be. So we got to take that into account. There are a lot of times because of the O-line playing the way that they are, I feel like there are times where Tony is given more responsibility as a blocker to kind of help.
And he's done well.
He's done well, but it's still taking away from you just being that guy that runs with their legs and takes off with the ball. So I think, yeah, he hasn't been that guy. He has a lot more responsibilities on his back that he's having to endure game after game. But again, you got to look at the O-line and how that looks. And we very, very well know that the O-line is the one they are the ones creating those holes for you. And it hasn't been there for the running backs really this season.
Yeah, the O-line and the tight ends can't get him to and through the hole. That's the biggest issue right now. They're trying to scheme ways of doing this, whether it's pulling guys, it's with some of the combination blocks, but they don't win at the point of attack nearly enough. The right side surely hasn't won like it used to win with Steele, and I think you're dealing with his injuries of him trying to come back. They just haven't been as strong. And then when they have had opportunities, unfortunately, they had a big run the other day, got called back for holding. With Schoonmaker. They've had some that have got to and through, and when they're capable of doing that. He's clearly different. I don't think he's healthy enough right now. I think the injuries has hurt him. It's unfortunate for him because he's trying to get another contract. He's playing on a franchise tag right now, and you're starting to hear the whispers. Would Dallas consider drafting a running back in the first round now? You're starting to hear, you're starting to see people talk about, well, do they just need to move on from all these running backs and address that in the next year? So I think that as long as the offensive line continues to struggle, you'll see Tony Pollard struggle.
And Tony, to his credit, because he had a touchdown that was deleted because of the illegal formation penalty. So, I mean, he's grinding and he's doing what he can do. It's a different seat. So it's a different Tony because it's different requirements. And like we all agree, offensive line isn't helping him at all. But then you go back.
Throw the tight ends in there too, by the way.
Also. Yeah. But then when you go back and you look at, let's say, the Chargers game, for example, Dak extends the play, hits Pollard, he turns that into a 60-yarder. That before he was tackled, you're like, okay, this looks like 2022 Tony Pollard. But the fact he didn't feel this guy right here, that felt like the 2023 Tony Pollard.
Right, and also he even talked about it after the game. He's like, that's one that I should have taken to the house. And I don't know if he had that extra gear at that point to take it to the house or not.
Because
who knows?
He's been doing the dirty work.
But the one thing that keeps popping up in my head is a conversation that I know you had it with Skip Pete. I had it with Skip Pete. He even talked about it to the media in general. Is his belief was in order to get the best out of Tony Pollard needed that extra back who was taking that. Yeah, you needed that in order to get the very best out of him. You have to manage his number of reps. And I'm wondering, again, I don't know that we've seen enough to make a definitive statement, but I'm wondering if that's all playing out now to where just that added amount of number of reps, added number of hits, that the cumulative of that maybe affects him in a way to where you don't get the same level of explosiveness that you would have gotten in past years with him. We don't know for sure, but I do think, and because I agree with you, Brian, until the offensive line starts doing their part and the tight ends start doing their part, it's hard to really evaluate him. I don't think he's getting a fair shot at this. But I do wonder if some of that is what Skip Pete talked about and why he thought it was necessary to have both a Zeke Elliott and a Tony Pollard in this run offense.
Do you think, let's just create this scenario, if Zeke was still here and they were still that combo together, would they still be having the same type of issues right now?
Yes, because I don't think the blocking would be different. The blocking would be different. Yeah.
It would look worse.
Yeah.
It would
right.
But so it wouldn't be it's not that difference maker. So going back to your point, this is just me backing up your point that it is all stemming down from the O-line, and it's no fair judgment to look at him and evaluate his level of playing level, because there's no other way.
I think all of it feeds into each other. So obviously there's offensive line issues, and that makes it difficult for him to be as productive as he probably would be otherwise. But you can't take away from the fact that once he became RB1, there's different tasks that are required. It's just dirty work, and it's more pass pro, and it's more A and B gap runners, and it's more dirty work. So by the time you get to that point in the Chargers game, late in the game, where you need him to find two high gears, he found the first one, and it was like, okay, here we go. But he didn't feel this guy because he didn't find the highest top gear that probably was there when he would have been on fresher legs because Zeke had done most of the work. Well, I can almost guarantee you, now this is theoretically, but if you put Rico in that same play, it's probably a touchdown. Does that mean Rico's better than Tony? No, but it means that Rico has the fresher legs. It's the RB2 conversation. It's why, and we've covered the Cowboys long enough, all of us, to understand how that works with fans. It's Felix Jones, you should give him more, let Julius go and give it to Felix. And then Felix, he's a capable running back, but then it's like, oh, well, let's give it to Lance.
Remember Troy Hambrick?
Right. It's the brick. Right?
No, people were like, you got to get Troy Hambrick the starting role. And then it was like,
okay, well, look at.
That's the reason why we're doing radio right now.
Right. Let's look at Tony and get rid of Zeke and make Tony the top dog. And now Tony's the top dog. And then like, ooh, Rico. Yeah. So it's just, and if hypothetically, if it were Rico as RB1 next season, then they'd be like, ooh, deuce.
It's the meme, right? It's the meme of the guy walking with the girl that's always looking behind like at the other girl, right?
It's always
that's how the RB1 and RB2 work.
That's how it always works.
All right, we appreciate you guys joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll wrap this thing up, tell you what we think is going to happen this Sunday, Cowboys versus Giants. Still in for Patrick Walker, Brian Broaddus, and Amber Garcia. I am Derek Eagleton, and this has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?